Now, of course, there are lots of pre-Socratic philosophers, but I really only want to talk about two more, Democritus and Protagoras. I want to talk about Democritus because he introduced the idea of the atom. Atomos. Atomos means divisible, apparently, or dividable, or dividing. A thing that can be divided. Atomos. A thing that can not be divided. The atom, for Democritus, is the basic unit of the cosmos. Unlike Parmenides, whose cosmos is densely packed, for Democritus there are, shall we say, two elements to the cosmos: atoms and the void. So he clearly believes that you need space for motion, and motion is what atoms are all about. The atoms are always in motion. Now, as far as atoms go, he seems to think, and it's not entirely clear. Again, we're getting most of this material through other historians of philosophy. We don't have a whole lot of his actual writing available to us. And he was influenced by Leucippus, his teacher. So Democritus is sometimes just a little vague, but as generally understood, Democritus held that there was just one sort of atom in terms of what it was made of. They were all made of the same thing. They differed largely in terms of size. Some places there seems to be some difference in shape, but I'm going to lean away from that. I'm going to just say it's in terms of size. So all of the things we see, all of the things that we're aware of differ in virtue of the various sizes of atoms working together in one pattern or another. Now, the very smallest and finest and simplest and cleanest and purest of atoms are what make up soul, what make up life. And the bigger things are made of bigger atoms. Now, clearly then, some things have mixed sizes of atoms going on in them. Some have large ones and small ones, and some have, lots of large and different sizes of large and different sizes of small and so forth. But it is how these atoms collide as they go swerving through the void, careening hither and thither. They make color, they make light, they make weight, they make everything. Earth, air, fire, and water. All atoms in motion of varying sizes. He'd want to say that the earth atoms are the largest. This is obvious. Earth is large and crumbly. Air, on the other hand, very, very fine. Never forget that one of the Greek words for soul is pneuma. Holy Spirit is hagia pneuma. So soul is pneuma. But pneuma, as we also know from pneumonia and pneumatic pressure lifts and other uses of that pneum, P-N-E-U-M, yeah, I got it all, prefix, pneuma is breath as well. So air, breath, the very finest of atoms, the purest of atoms, the simplest, most basic level atoms. These are the source of life. And it is their motion through the grosser motion of my body that gives me motion, makes me alive. For Democritus, then, everything is material. Well, we might want to say He's a neutral monist. And by that I mean that monist, just one sort of thing, and two, it does seem like he might be willing to say that these soul atoms are a different sort of thing. But let's just call him a materialist. That's what he's always been called. And coincidentally, by the way, he's the laughing philosopher. You may have mentioned, remember I mentioned that Heraclitus was the crying philosopher, where Democritus was the laughing philosopher. Democritus, with his notion of atoms moving through the void, had an essentially cheerful look on life. We are matter. And so what? It's all great. It's all good. There's nothing to worry about, nothing to be afraid of, because we're just all matter, and we're all here together making a wonderful world as atoms moving through the void. Well, again, I want to emphasize, one, his importance of materialism, and two, this idea of the atom. And both of these have served to influence modern thinking a lot. Now, the next guy has influenced modern thinking a lot, and like Democritus, he's influenced it both in people who look at what he has to say and go, yeah, 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 and people who look at what he has to say and go, no, no, no. And that's Protagoras. Protagoras is famous for having opened his book, and that's the way it's described, his book. Perhaps he wrote more than one, who knows, but his book, man is the measure of all things, of those things that are, that they are, of those things that are not, that they are not. Protagoras holds that we are the only judges present in the universe, so our judgment is good, is valid, is right. Everything that exists as a relationship with us, relative to us. Now, you would say, perhaps, well, if I get up and walk out of the room, does the room go away because it's no longer here to be in relation to me? Well, yeah, it is still in relation to me. It's that room over there. It's the one I was just in. So there's still a relationship that exists, and it will continue to exist. No one else has ever been in this room but me. I die. Does the room disappear? Well, Protagoras would say, well, might as well, huh? I mean, if nobody else can get in there or go in there, then all the qualities or items or whatever that may or may not exist in that room, they might as well be gone. Nobody knows they're there. So what's the real difference? It's only in the relationship with the human experience that we can talk about anything, Protagoras says. Good and evil, right and wrong. We're told by Heraclitus, the father of flux, that every creature sees the divine in light of itself. And therefore, he says, the Thracian gods have red hair and the Ethiopian gods have black skins. Protagoras would say that's absolutely right. Heraclitus thought that showed that everything was in flux, that things were constantly changing. Protagoras would say it's not a matter of are they constantly changing, but it is a matter of is it in relationship to human beings. There is a more central view of the human in Protagoras than in Heraclitus. Heraclitus, and I guess another reason he's the crying philosopher, Heraclitus sees humanity basically at a loss in the world, unable to do anything, at least very much. We're always at the mercy of violence and disaster. Nothing under our control, nothing we can pursue because it's all going crazy. It's all in flux. Can't even step in the same river twice. You want to have a war? Fine, have a war, but you don't even know that that's the river we called the border. And border, what the hell was that? That's just a name we made up. Protagoras suggests no. We can at least establish a continuity through human relationships with each other and with the world. Thus, we can talk about relative truth, truth that is in a relationship that we have with the world or have with each other. So I can say apples are bigger than ping pong balls and have said something meaningful that we can either agree or disagree on. And when we agree, then we say it's true. And why do we say it's true? Well, we agree on it. That makes it true. The truth exists in the relationship between you and me and the apple and the ping pong ball. Had we gone a different way with our truth, well, other people might not agree with us, but we'd still be in agreement, and we'd still be able to communicate, and we'd still be able to go forward in a world where it was true that apples are bigger than ping pong balls. So Protagoras, again, looking back, Protagoras looks back to Heraclitus and say, you're right about the comparativeness of things, but you're wrong when you say you can't find anything in it. I can always find me in it. We'll hear that position echoed later too. I can always find me. I can find other human beings. Yes, he did say man, but any human being will fill the bill. Human beings are the measures of all things. How we measure it is what makes it so. So we have two great views, great positions that are identical, I'll warn you, being presented here. We have relativism, everything exists only in a relationship to other things, and we have nominalism. Nominalism is the idea that when we talk about universals, we're just talking about names, that these are just conventions that we have created. They may or may not be present in the world at large. We look back to Parmenides. Parmenides is a realist, but there's only one thing to be named, the cosmos. Everything else is illusion. Parmenides, one stuff, a monist. Monist says there's one stuff. We take a look at our friend Democritus. He says there's two stuffs, atoms and the void. But the only really important one is the atoms. So we can call him a monist too if we like. Obviously, Heraclitus can be called a polyist. It's all mad for Heraclitus. Everything is in flux. Nothing is the same. I can't even talk about it. Why are you bothering me? Leave me alone. Go away. Protagoras is at least a dualist. There is at least the human being and the thing that's not the human being. And that thing that's not the human being is given its nature, its qualities by human beings. So at least two kinds of stuff. These are the great arguments that are going to move forward. What we haven't talked about to this point is right and wrong. I mean, we can obviously draw some conclusions on the part of Protagoras. He's going to say, well, it's right if I say it's right, and if it's wrong if I say it's wrong. And that's all there is to it. Good is a matter of my opinion, and evil is, well, and say that for a little later. But this then is going to be Protagoras' position. The person who seems to have brought ethics to the fore is the person who gives these people, these Pre-Socratics, their name. Socrates. Keep on talking philosophy.